What if Duel Logs Top 10 Waifus were in Magic the Gathering? Duel Logs is a popular YouTuber / streamer for his top 10 videos, primarily on trading card games. And since it's Valentine's Day, I decided some of his top picks of attractive women in revealing clothes. Starting things off strong is Silent Magician, a level 4 light attribute spellcaster with 1000 attack and 1000 defense. With the effect, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing one spellcaster type monster, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 500 attack for each card in your hand. Once per turn, during either player's turn, when a spell card is activated, you can negate the activation if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect. You can special summon one Silent Magician monster from your hand or deck, except Silent Magician, ignoring its summoning conditions. Converting this card into magic, it could become a 5-cost legendary human wizard, with 2 blue and 3 generic, with 2 power and 2 toughness, and the effect, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice a wizard. This spell costs 2 less to cast. Silent Magician gets +1/+0 for each card in your hand. 2 blue, tap, counter target non-creature spell. When Silent Magician dies, you may pay 2 blue, 1 generic. If you do, search your library for a wizard card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. It only counters non-creature spells, as Silent Magician can only stop spell cards. However, since every card in Magic is a spell card, non-creature cards are basically the same thing, as they are non-monster cards. Its spell negation effect becomes a tap ability to imitate a once per turn effect, and it costs 2 mana to activate, as that is the standard rate for counter spell effects. It gains +1 power for each card in your hand, as I would consider every 500 stat points in Yugioh to be equivalent to 1 stat point in Magic. It lets you summon any wizard when Silent Magician dies, as it's supposed to float into another Silent Magician monster when it dies, which would be a wizard respectively, though you have to pay a flat cost to activate this effect, as cheating any cost creature onto the battlefield is a very strong effect. You can sacrifice a wizard to reduce the cost of this card to imitate special summoning this card by tributing a wizard, only being limited by being a legendary card, as you can only control one legendary card with the same name at any given time. It costs 5 converted mana, as it's not only a big body for its reduced cost, it also has a reusable counter ability. It has a blue cost since it's a wizard, a creature type most common in blue, and because of its ability to counter cards. The next waifu up is Fairy Tale Snow, a level 4 light attribute spellcaster with 1850 attack and 1000 defense, and the effect, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense position. If this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can banish 7 other cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard, special summon this card. Converting this card, I would make it a 4-cost Squirrel Shaman with 1 green, 1 blue, and 2 generic, with 4 power and 2 toughness, and the effect, when Fairy Tale Snow enters the battlefield, turn target creature your opponent controls face down. They are 2/2 creatures. Escape 1 hybrid green-blue mana. Exile 7 other cards from your graveyard. The keyword escape, letting you exile a set amount of cards to cast it from your graveyard, and hybrid mana, letting you pay the cost with either color. Fairy Tale Snow has escape, as even though you could use cards from your hand, field, or graveyard, you are giving up way too much advantage, removing cards from anywhere besides the graveyard. It also becomes a shaman, since this card was a spellcaster for some reason, and from Magic's 5 different spellcaster types, shaman came out on top, since their magic comes from lore, with emotional and spiritual components, much like the fairy tale this card is based on. It has a blue cost, since it's the color that forcibly turns cards face down the most, and a green cost, since Fairy Tale Snow is both a squirrel and shaman. Creature types most abundant in green. The next card up is Tour Guide from the Underworld, a level 3 Dark Attribute Fiend with 1000 attack and 600 defense. With the effect, when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 3 Fiend monster from your hand or deck, but its effects are negated. Also, it cannot be used as synchro material, converting this legal lolly. His words, not mine.
She's what we call a legal lolly, and if you don't want to end up on some kind of watch list, I wouldn't recommend looking that up.
I would make her a 4-cost demon with 2 black, 2 generic, with 2 power and 2 toughness. With the effect, when Tour Guide from the Underworld enters the battlefield, put a demon or horror card with mana value 3 or less from your hand onto the battlefield, or search your library for a demon or horror card with mana value 3 or less. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. It costs 5 converted mana, as it puts any demon or horror card onto the battlefield with 3 or less mana. It has a black cost since it searches your library for a demon or horror, all black related card effects. The next card to be converted is Trickstar Licorice, a level 3 light fairy with 1600 attack and 1200 defense. With the effect, Quick Effect, you can reveal this card from your hand, then target one Trickstar monster you control except Trickstar Licorice. Special summon this card, and if you do, return that monster to the hand. Each time a card is added to your opponent's hand, inflict 200 damage to them for each. Converting this card, it may become a 4-cost fairy with 2 red and 2 generic, with 4 power and 3 toughness, and the effect, Flash. You can play this card at instant speed. When Trickstar Licorice enters the battlefield, return target fairy creature you control to its owner's hand. Whenever an opponent draws, Trickstar Licorice deals 1 damage to target player. It has Flash because you can summon Licorice at quick effect speed. It returns fairies, as Trickstars are all fairy type monsters, and it has a red cost because of its effect damage ability. The last waifu to be converted is Hiita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze, a Link 2 Fire Attribute Spellcaster with 1850 attack, and the requirements, 2 monsters, including a fire monster. This card is always treated as a familiar possessed card. You can target 1 fire monster from your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a zone this card points to. If this Link Summon card is destroyed by battle, or is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, whilst in its owner's monster zone, you can add 1 fire monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Hiita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze, once per turn. You may be wondering why this card is always treated as a familiar possessed card. The reason being is that this card is part of 2 interlocked archetypes, Elemental Charmers and Familiar Possessed. In Yu-Gi-Oh, this distinction is just as important as a card's effect, as in order to be searchable and work effectively with other cards in your deck, they must have a common name. And Link monsters, for those of you who don't know, are cards that are summoned from a sideboard of cards called the Extra Deck, so long as you have the required materials on the field equal to the Link rating listed on the card you're trying to summon. Converting this card into magic, I would make it a 6-cost Human Shaman with 2 red and 4 generic, with 3 power and 2 toughness, and the effect, Emerge, 2 red, 4 generic, letting you reduce the generic cost by sacrificing a creature you control. Devour 1, letting you sacrifice a set amount of creatures you control to let this creature enter with that many 1/1 counters on it. Put target red creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That creature gains haste until the end of the turn, letting the creature attack or use tap abilities on the turn it was played. When Hiita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze, dies, search your library for a red creature card with 3 or less toughness. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I gave this card Devour to imitate sacrificing cards equal to the monster's Link rating, -1. Since you're probably sacrificing a creature already with Emerge, Ablaze becomes a Shaman, as this card gains its magic from channeling fire spirits. This card has 3 power, even though its attack is above 1500, as if we were to include the +1/+1 counter it gains from Devour. Its stats fall in line with the aforementioned ratios. I gave her 3 toughness instead of 0, as even though Link monsters don't have defense points, every iteration of this card has 1500 defense, so I'll be using this value for its toughness. Ablaze summons red creatures, as this card only affects fire attribute monsters. It also gives the creature you steal from your opponent haste, since many red cards slap this keyword onto creatures to make them instantly usable. Finally, it has a 6 converted mana cost, as it swarms the field with lots of red creatures when it's summoned and when it dies. If there's anything I should have changed, or any ideas on cards I should convert next, please let me know in the comments below, or on my Discord or Patreon for script writing and more behind the scenes stuff. And if you like this video, you should check out this one, where I converted the Power 9 into Yu-Gi-Oh! Again.
Why do you have Akiza as a PFP but no Akiza videos? I use her as like a mascot because I like red hair and big boobies. That's all it was.